Well, hi folks, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. So today we're going to take a look at this lovely old Aiwa TPR-200H. Lovely looking unit on the face of it. Very simple mono radio cassette recorder, but quite a pretty little thing, and not many of them about, so I thought it'd be worth a look. Now, it is only mono, but it's got the two-way speaker system there, you can see, with the woofer and the tweeter. And very simple but beautifully formed. So it's got a four band radio selector there, so you've got medium wave, two shortwave bands, and of course your FM. Only mono, of course, on this particular model. So you've also got a master volume control, no split left and right speakers, of course. You've got one single tone, so no lows, mids or highs, just a simple tone control. But you do have a loudness button there, just to add a bit more grunt and bite at lower volume levels. And then a very simple radio and tape master selection function switch. So that's all you've got there. And then of course your cursory and regular cassette transport buttons. So in lovely condition. This is how I've received it, so I haven't given it a clean or anything at all yet, just given it a quick initial assessment. So I'll just show you the back actually whilst we're here. So you can see it's in nice condition. Oh, the radio's come on, which is a bonus. I must have just knocked the switch then. So she's plugged in, ready to test, and there she is, lovely and clean, nice condition overall, and yeah, very nice. So we're going to take a bit of a closer look now. I have just taken the liberty of plugging it in, and you could tell then the radio did actually just come on actually randomly on its own. So let's see what we've got. Okay, well the radio's working, or at least something's working. Seems very quiet though. Let's see. Okay, so it is tuning in. It is definitely tuning in. So it's finding stations, it's finding frequencies, which is good. It's very quiet though. Very quiet. And very tinny, very thin. And the volume part, I'm just hesitating here because the volume part, I'm just having a listen. It's not scratchy, it's not intermittent. So neither is the tone. So there's just no volume there. So it sounds like the actual main speaker isn't working. Let's see. Let's go back to, there we go, FM. Yeah, that is literally just a tweeter working there. So there's nothing working at all. The woofer's not working. All we've got is the tweeter working there. So let's just try a tape. I'm just going to find a cassette a moment. And it looks nice and clean inside actually. So I'm just going to select that over to tape and grab a cassette. One moment while the camera goes everywhere. But we'll try and do this sort of honestly and in one take, as it were. So we just put the cassette in now. Oh, hang on. Right. So nothing's working there. And if we rewind, no, and stop, fast forward, nothing. Okay, well we can hear the motor going. Let's take the cassette back out, and I'm just going to see the pinch roller, see if anything's actually looks like it might be happening anywhere. No, I can feel like a vibration in there, but nothing's actually turning. So I'm just going to manually sort of spin the capstan, and it's turning freely. And it's it must be a metal one in there because it feels like it's got a lot of rolling resistance there. So that's good. So it feels like it's a fairly hefty flywheel on the other side. But obviously the belt's not driving that, and I'm assuming through the various linkages inside, the main belt's gone and nothing else works either. So none of the take-up reel, nothing else is working, the spindles aren't turning at all. So, all right then, so basically what we've got with this is all the knobs and switches and everything are present. We've got power. It seems to be tuning the radio frequencies okay. and the cassette motor seems to be turning and spinning okay. So got no connection to any of the cassette, and we've got no volume from the main speaker. So what we'll do is crack this open, test the speaker and the output stages there and connections, and also we'll get the cassette mechanism out, give that a good looking at and service, and take it from there. So anyway, without further ado, let's get it open. And just before we get this open, I'm going to switch it back to radio real quick and connect some headphones into the output there. I'll turn this up. Yeah, it's not tuned to a channel, I've just got white noise there at the moment, but the output is definitely working okay. So as is the VU meter, actually, look at that, lovely. So that's all good. So anyway, it looks like it's actually a problem with the speaker, and we'll go in and take a look now. Righty ho. So first thing we'll do is get these screws out. 5 screws there, all the same size, that's handy. Okay, interesting, the aerial on this one, the antenna isn't fixed via a cable. There is actually a contact point on the circuit board which oh hello, and as I touch that, there is some very sticky goo, and that is part of the belt which has literally thrown itself all over the mechanism somewhere. I was literally just going to show you the spring, like a battery terminal sort of thing there on the back of the antenna, which in turn engages with the contact on the board, but as I did that, this black piece of belt was stuck on the side of the casing, and that's going to be one of these horrible jobs. Anyways, also you can see we've got the contacts there for the, there we go, hang on. So these are the contacts here. I'll just zoom in with my non-belt covered finger. Right, well, what was I saying? So these are the contacts for the battery onto the board. So that's your DC, and I think we said it was 9 volts, didn't we? Is that right? No, 7.5 volts DC, and it's, for anyone who's interested, it's a positive pin. Right, but here, look, is the rest of the belt, but another portion of the belt. So I'm just going to find something to try and clean some of this away. Always good fun. And this stuff stains, it doesn't come out, it really is nasty. And you ought to wear gloves really when you come across a broken belt like this, because it does stain, it gets everywhere. But in any event, now that we've removed the pins, and they are nicely labelled, positive and negative, couldn't be easier, we can now take the back case away. Okay. And then I can see, you may not be able to, but I can see down through there now, great access, great visibility to the belts. Basically the motor spindle here is bereft of a belt, as is the pulley there. We've got a pulley here that's not attached. In fact, there is part of a belt there, you can see. It might come away if we're careful. We've then got the flywheel, which again you may or may not see. And if we're careful, we may be able to peel that away. You can see the flywheel wants to turn, and the good news is it looks like it's a geared sort of mechanical linkages and idlers on this rather than idler tires. So in theory, if we can get these belts sorted, that will fix the actual cassette deck. But the problem we've also got, of course, is this speaker. Now we can get to the speaker now because we can see the terminals. So now would be a good chance to basically test the terminal, test the resistance on the speaker, and perhaps hook up a secondary speaker to it just to see if we can get any sound. Right then. So I've just hooked up 7.5 volts here DC to the board. So that should get us running. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a speaker here, and I'm just going to put some jumpers on it just to see if we can get this other speaker indeed to work. And hopefully we should get some sound from the speaker just off camera. There's a crackle, something's sounding positive. There it is. Yeah, so it's definitely gone. It sounds like it's definitely the speaker that's gone. So that's probably like, what, a 4-inch, 5-inch speaker in there. So just a quick look at where we're at then. The cassette, we can see the belts are all over the place there. You can see them all sort of spat up and chewed out in there. Easy enough to do though, I think, and that we should solve the problem quite nicely. The motor itself we know is turning well, so that should sort that. The speaker though, we've got an open coil somewhere on there, so that needs looking at. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to fix it, I don't think, but I need to really get the speaker out to be able to have a proper closer look at the contacts and stuff and see what the issue is. We may actually just have to replace the speaker, but we've proven that that it does drive that speaker there with the tweeter, so we do get decent sound if we bypass it. So basically I think we're going to have to get the board out anyway. We're going to get this whole assembly out. That will allow us to remove the speaker and also to service the tape deck. Right then, so I'm guessing we'll remove the knobs to get us access to everything else, but I think okay, well the tuning knob fell off on its own pretty much, so let's just, right, okay, okie dokie. So the radio switch knob pulls off, the looks like the potentiometer knobs do come away. There you go, and probably the switch knob as well. Come on. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to leave that one. I don't think it needs to be anything except in the pressed in position. Right. So what have we got then? Well, there's a screw on the top side. That knob does pull off there. Right, okay. That small gold screw is holding the cassette mech, and now everything else should come away. Perfect. But basically, if we can unscrew that screw there, that will bring away the mechanism, well, the entire board actually. The radio board, the cassette mech, gives us access, of course, to the pinch roller and the there you go, the capstan, pinch roller, the heads, which actually look fairly clean, to be honest. Yep, it all looks okay. Yeah, I reckon it'll be easy enough now to separate the cassette mech, so that's great news. Just a quick look at the radio board as well there. Very clean and tidy, very simple. So that's okay, but I'll just put that to one side for a moment. Just want to take a look at this speaker now. And so, yeah, where she would have continuity on the tweeter there, the same can't be said. The same can't be said, unfortunately, for this speaker. And even if we, let's have a look. Yeah, looks like the voice coil's gone on this one. So there you go. That's looks like a failure of the speaker. Whether we'll be able to find an exact one, I'm not so sure, but it's a fairly standard little beastie. So yeah, we'll be able to find something that can go in there. That'll be okay. So I'm just going to desolder these two, and then the speaker will be out. And we'll have to cut that capacitor away as well. It's just glued in. Not too worried about scratching the speaker, but there we go, the cap's popped off there. So that should give us, there we go. Okay, there's been a bit of a short break in the filming here. It's been 3 or 4 weeks, in fact, and I was trying to get hold of some speakers. I've managed to find some from t'other side of the world, as they say on the internet. And yeah, there we go. So we've got some speakers that match now. Exactly the right size and right shape. That's the original one. This is the replacement. And you can see they line up 122mm centers to the holes, which are perfect. So it should drop straight back in. This one's an 8 ohm 10 watts, and the original one is indeed an 8 ohm 10 watt as well. So it should just be plug and play. Now I've just reviewed a bit of the footage, and I think I didn't get around to even replacing the belt at the time. I think the belts had turned to tar, and we didn't have a speaker anyway. So I kind of gave it up as a bad job for a little while and put it back together again by the looks of things. And so I've just dug it back out. So I'm going to go ahead now and get the back off, get the circuit board out, the tape mech, all that sort of stuff. See if we can get the belt mechanism serviced and then get this speaker in. Here we go then. Let's take a look at this speaker then. So I've put the screws very thoughtfully back in. So we'll get those out now. I always find if I've got several projects on the go at the same time, it's always worth putting the screws, either labelling them up or putting them back from whence they came. Just makes life a lot easier. So, okay, so the original speaker would have gone into there, like so, and the holes line up perfectly within the housing, which is exactly what you'd expect and what you'd hope for. I'm hoping now, fingers crossed, this is genuinely the first time I've done this, so here we go. Almost. So just having a look at what might be different. There's not much in it. The dimensions are the same. Ah, I see. There's some let outs in the seal around the original one, whereas this one carries on. So I might just need to nudge a little bit of material out to allow them to sit onto the raised screw studs just there. So yeah, I can see that's what that is. So I'm just going to quickly nail some of that material away and I'll be back shortly. That's fabulous. Just cut a little bit of the foam away just to allow that to seat onto the mounting studs. Perfect. Wow, I didn't think I'd be able to find a speaker that I could literally screw straight back into a 40-year-old chassis. And just like that, the new speaker was in. Now obviously we can't test any of this yet because we've got to service the rest of the mechanism and what have you. But yeah, we'll get this one soldered in, give the case a wipe down, and we can put this to one side. So I've just soldered the speaker in using the original capacitor, which I've retained with a spot of hot glue in exactly the same place it was before. I want to just check that there's some resistance there. Yeah, about 7.5 ohms, so that's great for an 8 ohm speaker. We're going to be okay. I've also cleaned the case out as well, just a little bit of finesse. It didn't really need doing, but it's nice while we're in here to give that a good wipe. I've also used some polish on the inside of the tuner window as well, so that when we put it back together again, the viewing display for the radio gauge will all be nice and bright and clean. Okay, the time has now come then to sort this belt out. So I don't want to disturb any of the radio wire, that's for sure. So the dial cord, it's sprung there, both tied off the spring. The one nearest this side goes around this way, the one that side goes that way, this one goes on the top. Wow, so it runs through there, under that one, over the bottom reel, along the bottom, over the top of the lug, and that lug around that reel, onto here with the string with the marker, back around the second roller, around the side, runs 1, 2, 3, and I think 4 times over the top of this nearest the knurled part, back through that roller, over here, where it goes at the back, rotates underneath. Good Lord. Oh, and then it comes back out onto that spring. What a job. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to see if I can unscrew this and swing that away. Let's see what happens now. So, okay, fantastic. So then I think this screw has to come away. Well, that was absolutely horrible. I don't mind telling you, that has been some kind of a job getting that out. Basically, it all stems from the fact that the whole board is in one piece, as you can see. It sort of snaps into and on and around this housing, which has got engagement lugs at various places along there, so it kind of snaps into there. But you've got to be so careful not to damage the dial cord mechanism or any of that, because that's kind of suspended and bolts back onto the tuning cap dial down there eventually later on. But that whole housing there is just one fragile piece of plastic. You've got to lift it over posts, bring it out of tabs, try and free it up from loads of cables as you go. It's a complete nightmare, I don't mind telling you. At least the good news is, and I'm kind of going to chicken out a little bit, I think, is I can get to, not whilst I'm holding the camera admittedly, but I can sort of get in to try and wiggle around and clean the pulleys. I mean, you can see, oh no, look, see, this is all going to get messy very quickly. So I've got to get in here in a minute with both hands and basically clean the pulleys, get the, I can actually, I think if I wiggle it enough and move things around enough, I can now get to get the flywheel keeper off, get the flywheel out, give that a decent clean, replace the belt, of course. And also I noticed that some of the grease, you can probably see it on there actually, it's quite thick, it's not turning very, there goes the belt. Yeah, it's all a bit gooey and a bit greasy and thick, so I'm going to clean that off and put some fresh lube on there. Basically, it's just going to be one of those horrible jobs. I mean, this thing has just turned into a bit of a disaster, really. We're getting there, but it's a lot more work than I thought. Originally, it was just going to be a blown speaker and yeah, what else? The belt, but it's actually turning out to be a bit of a nightmare. I don't mind telling you. So I should be glad to get this one back together. And it carries on. I still can't really get any access. Every time I try and move something, it gets cable strained or constrained by something else. And then the whole thing ends up pulling on this little lot here. I have just taken out the little screw with a washer there, which is actually from a motor mount just there, and it's basically an earth. So there's two there, one goes underneath, but the long one basically goes all the way around there. It goes underneath that lip, all the way across the top. You can see it come back in actually now, the skinny black one just there, and then goes onto that SW3. So I've tried to unpick all sorts of stuff here, and now there's nothing else for it. I'm afraid I'm going to have to actually take the motor wires off now and see if that will help us a little bit. And so with the motor power supply desoldered and various cables, namely the purple, black and brown ones there that have just been unpicked from the side, little galley there, we've finally been able to get believe it or not, actually get the whole mechanism free at last. And that's taken, well, a lot longer than it should have done. Obviously now servicing it, lubing it, cleaning the head, capstan, pinch roller. You can see the capstan's got some ferrite on it quite there, look. So I'll go ahead and do all that probably. But what's going to be a bit of a head scratcher, I think, is figuring out what the belts are. I haven't got any information on this model, but I'm wearing part of the belt. It's that indelible black stain that you get. But basically, they've got the motor pulley there. There's the intermediate pulley there, and the flywheel, of course. Some of it is still caked in tack, and I'm just trying to see. I'm trying to line it through. I'm guessing the pulley one may come off of that motor, and then that drives the flywheel from underneath on a second belt, perhaps. Not sure yet. Need to go and scratch my head on this, figure it out. But first thing I'm going to do is just go and scrape out and clean out all these belts. That's the motor pulley cleaned. I've also cleaned this pulley here, and that's all nicely polished up now. And I've got rid of the old gungy grease from the worm gear and just put some light grease on there. So that's turning and spinning really nicely now. But the next job is just to get this flywheel out, because that's going to have to come out for a darn good clean, and I'm going to get coated in broken down belt, I think, next. Okay, let's take this belt out for probably the first time ever. So, screw there. You can see this one, 24th of May 1979. Okay, so it should come away, and a little nylon pad there. We'll clean that up and put a tiny bit more very light grease on that in a little while. Well, at least this is a good sign. We know now where the other belt definitely was, which is a very good sign, which is across here. Sometimes when the belt's broken down like that, it's nice to try and just get out what you can. Obviously we'll take this out in a minute anyways, but like I say, it's nice just to be able to spin it like this and get the worst out. Just got a baby wipe at the moment, but you can see it's doing the job. And then we'll go around with some isopropyl alcohol and a cocktail stick in a moment, and that will just allow us to get in there and polish it right up like so. But first, just going to get the rest of this goo out. Look, that's horrible. There you go. And that's the old belt. Ugh. So I'm going to carry on getting these out, and I'll be back shortly. So the cleanup operation is pretty much complete now. Also had to do the counter belt because I realised that was missing as well, and that had equally broken down and gummed up. So I've just put a new one on, and I'm just going to clean the heads now. Not too much stuff coming off, to be honest. The capstan we know needs a bit of work, so what I'm going to do is just get rid of all this ferrite from the capstan, which you can see coming off there. I'll do the pinch roller as well, and then I'll catch you on the other side where we try and figure out these other belts. Okay, so I've hooked her up to the 7.5 volts DC. She's drawing about 130 milliamps now, and seem to have her up and running. You can see everything working there. Counters going round. The main drive belt, it turns out, comes off of the pulley there. You can see that. And the secondary belt driving the worm gear on the top is working nicely. And if I just turn it over, this might go horribly wrong, but I've put the tape in already, and that is actually playing. You can see that. So just trying to see if I can do anything else. Stop, fast forward, rewind, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's all working. I'm pretty happy with it, to be fair. I think that's probably as good as we're going to get until we put it all back together. But on the face of it, we know the motor works. We think the belts now are all lined up to where they should be. So that's 3 new belts. And now we've just got this total and utter carnage to try and put that together again. Wish me luck. And I always find that reassembling is easier if you retrace your steps and just follow your simple cable management. So we had these 3 cables came out from there, for example. Also, I've just put some rubber renew on the idler rubber there, which will help grip it a bit later as well. But as I was saying, again, just put everything back from whence it came, fold your cable ties back over, and hopefully slow and steady wins the race. So there we go, it's coming back together nicely now. We've got the screws back in. The mech is now mounted via its screws back onto the chassis. All the cables have been routed the way they were originally. The motor has been soldered back on. The clamps are back in. The dial cord is back on in the right place and screwed down. Oh, so it's been a bit of a job, this one, but I think now's the time to give the chassis a bit of a clean, and hopefully we can drop it in and it'll work. Well, the new speaker's in. Everything's mounted down. The last screw's just gone in to hold the motor casing down there. So that's all we can do now. I'm just going to batten her back up again, and we've just got to connect the battery connections back onto the board here, and we'll give her a decent clean. She's a bit grubby, as you can see, needs a polish, so wish me luck. I just found some more of the belt whilst I was cleaning the case. I wondered where it had gone, but I mean, it literally is like butter. Look at this. It's a mess. Once that gets everywhere, that really is quite horrible. So yeah, most of the time doing this has been twofold really. One has been cleaning up the old bits of belt from the pulleys. The other has just been trying to get the whole thing disassembled, given that it's all in one big board. Okay, well, she's pretty much together as good as she's going to be for a minute. I've rigged up the speaker. I've also got some DC power from an external regulated power supply on there now. So let's hit the switch and see if anything happens. A, has it gone back together okay? B, do we finally have sound out of the speaker, which is what this was all about. So, radio on. And yes, there we go. I'll just find the tune in the dial a minute.
In Saturday Sport.
Sweet. Okay, good. Well, we won't do much else with that for a second, but we better check the tape, because of course we've replaced all 3 belts, and from memory we had to kind of figure out, didn't we, where they went. So hopefully this will work. Where's play? One of these will be play, because the markings are on the other side of the case, so wish me luck. I think it's this one. Nope. There we go. Oh, tape. So, pause works. What else have we got? So, fast forward, rewind, and play. So I've just got it all back together again now, and just going to clean up these contacts a bit. They won't have to be perfect, but we'll get them running on the batteries, because I think that'll be quite nice after everything else we've done to it today. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that clean. Also, just going to polish up the case. I've given it its first wipe down, and I'll get some decent proper plastic cleaner on that in a minute. Also, I've scrubbed the knobs, so get them cleaned up in a sec as well, polished up and put back on. Also, the aerial needs a polish as well. You can see it's all pitted along there, so that's a bit grimy. So we'll polish this, oil it up a little bit, do the same for the handles as well, because there's a bit of sort of corrosion and stuff on the chrome. So let's just go and get that sorted, and she'll be good as new. You've got to love the aluminium foil trick. That aerial has come up a treat. And the chrome on the sides, look, it's a mirror finish now. That's fantastic. Super cool. So here it is then, the Aiwa TPR-200H. A beautiful looking unit. It's cleaned up really well and I'm super pleased with it. It came in with a few issues though. We noted that the radio circuitry was working okay, but we knew that because we could hear it coming out of one speaker, and it was just that, the tweeter, that worked. Unfortunately, the woofer did not, and so we had nothing at all coming out of that. So we've replaced that. There's the old speaker that's come out of there. So we managed to track down an identical fit and the same resistance and wattage, so that's fantastic news. So that's great. And also, apart from the speaker not working, the tape was completely inoperative, and once we'd opened it up we found that actually it was a complete mess in there. Really sticky, gooey belts, and yeah, not just the main drive belt, but two of them had completely turned to mush, so we had to retrace those and replace the counter belt as well. So all three belts have been tracked and put back in now, so they're all working beautifully, and yeah, overall superb. So we've sorted the speaker out, we've sorted the tape mechanism out, and that just left the one issue, of course, which was the corroded battery terminals. And so let's just give this thing a little try and see how it sounds now.
That he may have had help from people abroad. That goes against what MI5 said in the past.
Thanks, Charlotte.
So there's the radio working. You can see the volume.
Strike in England will go ahead after meeting the government.
No crackles or pop there. And also the tone control has got a nice sweep on it as well, so some good equalisation there. And the loudness button, that's great. That just gives that bit of warmth and depth, so that's fantastic. That's working really well. So what about the tape then? Let's try it with play.
Well, baby, I ain't gonna cry. My clothes are wet, but my tears are dry. Don't wanna hear your alibi.
Good stuff. Rewind. Fast forward. Superb. And play again.
Baby, it's not your heart to break. Baby, as much as I can take it. Baby.
Good stuff. So we've got the radio working on both speakers now. The tape's working properly. And of course, just to finish off, I can confirm that what we've just done has actually been working directly from the batteries, so it's not plugged in at all. And there she is. So we've cleaned that up and it's working a treat. So there it is then, the Aiwa TPR-200H, all sorted, given a new lease of life and ready for more years to come. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and please subscribe, hit the notifications bell for updates, and I'll be back soon. Take care. Bye bye.